Imagine being so powerful that you could change someone's life with a single decision, but so emotionally guarded that you've forgotten what it feels like to truly care. Katherine Sullivan, CEO of one of Seattle's biggest tech empires, thought she had everything figured out until she witnessed something that shattered her carefully constructed world. Before we dive into this incredible story, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. The rain was hitting the windows of the small downtown cafe when everything changed. I was supposed to be reviewing quarterly reports, not sitting in some cramped cafe on Pine Street. But my assistant had insisted I needed to experience real Seattle instead of living in my glass tower. What a joke. The place smelled like burnt coffee and wet wool. I'd chosen a corner table, laptop open, trying to ignore the chaos around me when I heard it. A sound that made my blood freeze. A child was screaming, not crying, screaming. The kind of raw, desperate sound that cuts through everything else. I looked up from my screen and saw her, a little girl, maybe 7, sitting on the floor near the counter, hands pressed against her ears, rocking back and forth. Her face was red, tears streaming, and she was making that sound, like the world was ending. "Mia, honey, please," a young woman was saying, kneeling beside the child. The woman had to be in her early 20s, wearing a coffee-stained apron, her blonde hair falling out of a messy ponytail. "I know it's loud, baby. I know." The woman, Emily, according to her name tag, was trying to create a barrier around the little girl with her body, shielding her from the stares of other customers. Her voice was gentle, practiced. This wasn't the first time. "What the hell is going on here?" A man in a cheap suit stormed over. The manager, I assumed. His face was red with anger and embarrassment. "Emily, get that kid out of here now." "Sir, she's having a sensory overload. Just give me 2 minutes and 2 minutes. Look around. You're disrupting the entire cafe." He gestured wildly at the customers, some of whom were indeed staring, others filming with their phones. "This is a business, not a daycare." I watched Emily's face crumble for just a second before she composed herself. She was still kneeling on the dirty floor, one hand on her daughter's back, the other reaching for something in her pocket, noise-canceling headphones. "Please, Mr. Davidson, she's autistic. This happens sometimes when, I don't care what she is, you brought your personal problems to work again, and I'm sick of it." The little girl's screaming intensified. Emily was trying to get the headphones on her, whispering something I couldn't hear, but the manager wasn't done. "You know what? You're done. Clock out. Don't come back tomorrow." The words hit me like a physical blow. I found myself standing before I'd even decided to move. Emily's face went white. "Mr. Davidson, please, I need this job. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again, I promise." "Too late. You've embarrassed this establishment for the last time." I was walking toward them now, my heels clicking against the worn linoleum. Every eye in the cafe was on the scene, but all I could see was Emily's desperate face and that little girl who was slowly calming down with the headphones on. "Excuse me." My voice cut through the noise like a blade. The manager turned, probably ready to tell another customer to mind their own business, but stopped when he saw me. I knew the effect I had on people. 6 feet tall in heels, tailored black coat that cost more than most people's monthly salary, and the kind of presence that came from commanding boardrooms full of men who thought they were untouchable. "Ma'am, this is a private matter." "Is it?" I looked around the cafe, then back at him. "Because it seems pretty public to me." Emily was staring at me now, her daughter finally quiet in her arms. The little girl's eyes were huge and green, just like her mother's, and she was looking at me with the kind of curiosity that only children have. "I'm sorry for the disturbance," Emily said quietly. "We'll leave." "No." The word came out harder than I intended. "You won't." The manager's face was turning purple. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to what?" I stepped closer to him, and he actually took a step back. "To watch you humiliate a mother for taking care of her child? To pretend I didn't just witness you fire someone for showing compassion?" "This is none of your business," I smiled. But it wasn't a nice smile. Actually, it is now. I pulled out my phone and started typing. The manager watched, confused, as I sent a quick message to my assistant. Within 30 seconds, my phone buzzed with a response. "Interesting," I said, looking at the screen. "It seems this cafe is owned by Hartwell Properties, and Hartwell Properties," I paused for effect, "just became very interested in selling to Sullivan Tech." The color drained from the manager's face. Everyone in Seattle knew Sullivan Tech. Everyone knew me. "You're Katherine Sullivan," he whispered. "I am." I looked at Emily, who was still holding her daughter, both of them watching this unfold like it was happening to someone else. "And I think we need to have a conversation about how this establishment treats its employees." The cafe had gone completely silent except for the soft hum of the espresso machine. Emily's daughter had stopped crying entirely and was now staring at me with those enormous green eyes. "What's your name, sweetheart?" I asked, crouching down to the little girl's level. "Mia," she whispered, her voice barely audible through the headphones. "Hi, Mia. I'm Kate." I smiled at her, a real smile this time. "Those are really cool headphones," she nodded solemnly. "They help with the loud. The loud can be scary sometimes, can't it?" Another nod. I stood up and looked at the manager, who was now sweating despite the cool air. "Mr. Davidson, is it? I think you owe Emily and Mia an apology. I was just doing my job. Your job is to manage this cafe, not to humiliate employees who are dealing with a family crisis." I kept my voice level, but there was steel underneath. "So I'll ask again. Don't you think you owe them an apology?" He looked around the cafe, at all the customers watching, at Emily still holding Mia, at me standing there like an avenging angel in designer clothes. I'm sorry," he mumbled. Louder, "I'm sorry, Emily. And Mia." I nodded. "Good. Now, Emily, you're not fired. In fact, I think you deserve a raise for handling this situation with such grace under pressure." Emily's mouth fell open. What? "We'll discuss the details later." I handed her my business card, watching as she stared at it like it might disappear. "Call me tomorrow." I looked around the cafe one more time, at all the faces staring back at me, then knelt down next to Mia again. "It was very nice to meet you, Mia. Take care of your mom, okay?" She nodded seriously. "Okay, Miss Kate." As I walked toward the door, I heard Emily call out behind me. "Wait. Why did you help us?" I turned back, and for a moment, I wasn't the CEO of Sullivan Tech. I wasn't the ice queen of Seattle's business world. I was just a woman who had seen something that reminded her what it felt like to be human. Because someone should have. But as I walked out into the rain, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was the one who had been helped. I couldn't concentrate on anything for the rest of the day. Every time I tried to focus on the Morrison acquisition or the quarterly projections, I saw Emily's face. The way she'd looked when that pathetic excuse for a manager threatened her job. The way she'd protected her daughter without a second thought for herself. I'd built my empire by being ruthless, by never letting emotions cloud my judgment. But something about that scene in the cafe had cracked something open inside me that I'd kept locked away for years. By 6 p.m., I was still in my office, staring out at the Seattle skyline, when my assistant Marcus knocked. "The information you requested about the Pine Street Cafe," he said, setting a folder on my desk, "and the background check on Emily Parker." I opened the folder, scanning the details. Emily Parker, 24 years old, single mother, worked 3 jobs to support herself and her daughter. No family support system. Mia Parker, 7 years old, diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at age 4. The financial information made my chest tight. Emily was barely scraping by, living paycheck to paycheck in a studio apartment in Capitol Hill. Medical bills for Mia's therapy sessions. Student loan debt from a nursing program she'd had to drop out of when Mia was born. "There's more," Marcus said quietly. "I made some calls. The cafe manager, Davidson, he's been harassing her for months, threatening to fire her every time she had to deal with Mia's needs. Other employees confirmed it." I closed the folder and looked at Marcus. "Buy it." "The cafe?" "The whole building. I want Davidson gone by tomorrow." Marcus nodded, making notes. And Emily Parker? I hesitated. What was I doing? I didn't get personally involved in people's lives. I wrote checks to charities and moved on. But something about Emily and Mia had gotten under my skin in a way I couldn't explain. Set up a meeting tomorrow morning. The next day, I found myself back at the cafe at 8 a.m. I'd barely slept, which was unusual for me. I prided myself on compartmentalizing, on never letting personal feelings interfere with business decisions. Emily was behind the counter, looking exhausted but determined. She'd pulled her hair back in a neat ponytail, and she'd covered the coffee stain on her apron with a small pin, a puzzle piece, the autism awareness symbol. When she saw me, her face went through a series of emotions I couldn't quite read. Surprise, gratitude, wariness. "Miss Sullivan," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Can I get you something? Coffee, black, and a few minutes of your time." She poured the coffee with steady hands, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "Mr. Davidson isn't here today," she said quietly. "Word is he got transferred to another location." "Good." I took a sip of the coffee. It was actually decent. "How's Mia?" Emily's face softened immediately. "She's okay. She was worried she got me in trouble yesterday, but I explained that sometimes grown-ups need to learn how to be kinder. Smart kid." "She is." Emily glanced around the cafe, which was mostly empty except for a few early morning regulars. "Miss Sullivan, I need to ask you something." "Kate, and go ahead. Why did you really help us yesterday?" "I mean, I'm grateful, more grateful than I can say, but people like you don't usually—" She trailed off, looking embarrassed. "People like me? Rich people, powerful people. You could have just walked away." I studied her face, looking for signs of calculation or manipulation, but all I saw was genuine curiosity and a wariness that spoke of too many disappointments. "I have a sister," I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. Had a sister. She was autistic. Emily's eyes widened. Was? She died when she was 16, car accident. I'd never told anyone that story, not the real version, but before that, I watched her struggle in a world that didn't understand her, watched my parents struggle to find places that would accept her, people who would show her kindness instead of judgment. "I'm sorry," Emily said softly. "The point is, I know what it looks like when someone is fighting for their child, and I know what it looks like when the world tries to make them feel ashamed for it." We stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of shared understanding settling between us. "I have a proposition for you," I said finally. Emily tensed. "What kind of proposition?" "I need someone to help organize a charity gala. It's for autism research and support services. The pay is good, the hours are flexible, and it would be temporary, just until the event in 6 weeks. I don't know anything about organizing galas." "You don't need to. You need to understand what families like yours need. What would actually help them." I leaned forward slightly. "Emily, I've been to 100 charity events where rich people pat themselves on the back for writing checks, but they don't actually know what it's like to live with autism, to fight for services, to explain your child to a world that doesn't want to understand." She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her thinking, weighing options, probably wondering if this was too good to be true. "What about Mia? I can't afford a babysitter for that many hours." "Bring her. My office has a quiet room with sensory-friendly lighting and noise control. We can set it up however she needs." Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she quickly wiped them away. "You don't even know us. I know enough." I pulled out a contract I'd had Marcus draw up. "The salary is here, along with benefits that include health insurance for both of you." She looked at the number and went pale. This is more than I make in 6 months. It's what the job is worth. But why? Really, why are you doing this?" I looked at her, really looked at her. At the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she held herself like she was ready to fight or flee at any moment, the fierce protectiveness that radiated from her when she talked about Mia. "Because yesterday, watching you with your daughter, I remembered what it felt like to care about something more than profit margins and stock prices." I stood up, leaving the contract on the counter. "Think about it. Call me when you decide." I was almost to the door when she called out. "Kate." I turned back. Thank you. For yesterday. For this. For seeing us. Something twisted in my chest. Something I hadn't felt in years. Everyone deserves to be seen, Emily. As I walked back to my car, I realized I was in completely uncharted territory. I'd built my life on control, on keeping people at a safe distance, on never letting anyone close enough to hurt me. But something about Emily Parker and her daughter was making me want to tear down every wall I'd ever built. And that terrified me more than any hostile takeover ever had. Emily called me that afternoon. "I'll take the job," she said without preamble when I answered my phone. "But I have conditions." I was in the middle of a board meeting, but I stepped out into the hallway. "I'm listening. If this doesn't work out, if I mess something up, you don't blacklist me from other jobs in the city. I know how powerful you are, and I can't afford to burn bridges." "Fair enough. What else?" "Mia comes first. Always. If she needs me, I drop everything, of course. And I want to know what you really expect from me. Not the job description, but what you actually want." I leaned against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office building, looking down at the street where people moved like ants 40 floors below. Honesty. I want you to tell me when something is stupid, when it won't actually help families like yours, when we're wasting money on things that look good but don't matter. That's it? That's it. There was a pause. Okay. When do I start? Tomorrow, 9 a.m. The next morning, I found myself checking my reflection in the elevator mirror more times than usual. I'd chosen a softer look, gray cashmere sweater instead of my usual armor of sharp suits, hair down instead of pulled back severely. Marcus raised an eyebrow when he saw me. "Casual Friday? It's Tuesday." Exactly my point. Emily arrived at exactly 9 a.m., holding Mia's hand. The little girl was wearing noise-canceling headphones and carrying a small backpack covered in butterfly stickers. "Good morning," Emily said, her voice carefully professional. She dressed up, a simple black dress that probably came from Target, but looked elegant on her. Her hair in a neat bun, minimal makeup that couldn't quite hide the dark circles under her eyes. "Good morning." I knelt down to Mia's level. "Hi there, butterfly girl." Mia giggled, actually giggled, and touched one of the stickers on her backpack. "They're monarchs. They migrate thousands of miles." "That's amazing. They must be very brave." "Mama says I'm brave like a butterfly." I looked up at Emily, who was watching our interaction with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Your mama is very smart." I showed them around the office, ending at the quiet room I'd had prepared. Soft lighting, comfortable seating, a basket of sensory toys, and complete soundproofing. "This is incredible," Emily whispered, watching Mia explore the space with obvious delight. "My sister would have loved a room like this," I said quietly. Emily's hand brushed mine as she reached for the light dimmer, and I felt an unexpected jolt of electricity. She pulled back quickly, color rising in her cheeks. "So," she said, clearing her throat, "where do we start?" We spent the morning going through previous gala plans, and I watched Emily's face change as she read through the materials. "This is all wrong," she said finally. "Explain." "Look at this." She pointed to a line item in the budget. $15,000 for centerpieces. Do you know how many therapy sessions that could pay for? How many families could get respite care? The donors expect a certain level of elegance. The donors want to feel good about themselves. Emily's voice was getting stronger, more confident, but the families who actually need help, they want results. They want programs that work, support that matters. I found myself leaning forward, genuinely interested in what she had to say. When was the last time someone had challenged me like this? When was the last time someone had spoken to me like I was a person instead of a title? What would you do differently? Make it about the families, real stories. Let people meet kids like Mia, understand what autism actually looks like instead of some sanitized version that makes everyone comfortable. That's risky. Some donors might be uncomfortable. Good. Emily's eyes flashed with passion. Maybe they should be uncomfortable. Maybe that's how change actually happens. I stared at her, this young woman who was challenging everything I thought I knew about charity work, about business, about the careful distance I maintained from anything that mattered. "You're right," I said. What? You're right. We'll do it your way. Emily's smile was like sunrise, bright and warm, and completely transformative. Really? Really. We worked through lunch, Emily's enthusiasm infectious as she outlined ideas for making the gala more authentic, more meaningful. I found myself watching her hands as she gestured, the way she bit her lip when she was thinking, the way her whole face lit up when she talked about helping other families. Around 2 p.m., Mia appeared in the doorway of my office looking sleepy. "Mama, I'm hungry." "Oh, sweetie, I'm sorry. I lost track of time." Emily started to gather her things. "We should go." "Nonsense." I stood up. "There's a great cafe downstairs. My treat." "You don't have to. I want to." The cafe was busy, but I managed to get us a quiet corner table. Mia ordered chicken nuggets and apple slices. Emily got a salad, and I found myself ordering comfort food I hadn't eaten in years, grilled cheese and tomato soup. "This is nice," Mia announced, swinging her legs from the tall chair. "Mama, Miss Kate is nice." "Yes, she is," Emily said, but she was looking at me with something like confusion in her eyes. "What?" I asked. I'm trying to figure you out." "What do you mean?" "Yesterday you were this powerful CEO who swooped in and saved us. Today you're..." She gestured vaguely. "You're eating grilled cheese and asking my daughter about butterflies." "Maybe I'm both." "Maybe." Emily took a bite of her salad, then looked at me directly. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Shoot." "Are you lonely?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I set down my spoon, suddenly unable to meet her eyes. "I'm sorry," Emily said quickly. "That was inappropriate. I shouldn't have..." "Yes," I said quietly. "I'm very lonely." The admission hung in the air between us, raw and honest, in a way I wasn't used to being. "Me too," Emily said softly. "It's hard, being responsible for everything, having no one to share the load with. How do you do it? Raise Mia alone, work multiple jobs, stay so optimistic?" Emily smiled, but it was sad around the edges. "Some days I don't. Some days I cry in the shower and wonder if I'm completely screwing up her life. But then she does something amazing, or she laughs, or she tells me about butterflies, and I remember why it's all worth it." I looked at Mia, who was carefully arranging her apple slices in a pattern on her plate, completely absorbed in her task. "She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her." Emily paused. "What about you? No family?" "My parents died in the same accident as my sister. I have some distant relatives, but..." I shrugged. "I've never been good at letting people in." "Why not?" "Because everyone leaves eventually. It's easier to be alone by choice than to be abandoned." Emily reached across the table and touched my hand, just briefly, but the contact sent warmth shooting up my arm. "Not everyone leaves," she said quietly. I looked into her green eyes and felt something shift inside me. Something fundamental and terrifying and wonderful. "We should get back to work," I said, pulling my hand away. But as we walked back to the elevator, Mia between us chattering about butterflies and apple patterns, I couldn't shake the feeling that my carefully controlled world was about to change completely, and for the first time in years, I wasn't sure I wanted to stop it. 2 weeks into working together, I was in trouble. Deep, complicated, life-altering trouble. I'd started looking forward to Monday mornings for the first time in my adult life. I'd catch myself checking my watch at the end of the day, not because I was eager to leave, but because I didn't want Emily and Mia to go home. Emily had transformed the gala planning completely. Instead of the sterile, predictable event we'd hosted for years, she was creating something real. She'd connected with local autism support groups, arranged for families to share their stories, and somehow convinced me to cut the budget for flowers in half so we could fund 3 new therapy scholarships. "You're staring again," Marcus said, appearing in my office doorway. I looked away from the conference room where Emily was on a video call with potential speakers, Mia coloring quietly beside her. "I'm observing. It's called management. It's called something, but it's not management." Marcus sat down across from my desk. "Kate, can I speak freely? When have you ever done otherwise? You're falling for her." The words hit me like ice water. That's ridiculous. Is it? You've rearranged your entire schedule around her availability. You've started keeping juice boxes in your office. Yesterday, I caught you Googling autism-friendly vacation destinations. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I was researching for the gala. The gala is in Seattle, Kate. I turned back to the window, watching the late afternoon light paint the city in shades of gold. It doesn't matter what I feel. She works for me. She's vulnerable, financially dependent on this job. It would be completely inappropriate. What if she wasn't? What do you mean? Marcus pulled out a folder. I've been working on something, a permanent position, heading up our new community outreach division. Full benefits, competitive salary, complete independence from you professionally. I stared at the job description. It was perfect for Emily. Using her passion for advocacy, her understanding of what families actually needed, her natural ability to connect with people. You can't just create a position because you what? Care about someone? Kate, you've been a robot for the past 5 years. Emily Parker has made you human again. I don't know how to do this, I admitted quietly. I don't know how to care about someone without trying to control everything. Maybe that's something you figure out together. That evening, I found myself staying late again, ostensibly to review quarterly reports, but really because Emily was still there, working on seating arrangements while Mia played with building blocks in the corner. You don't have to stay so late, I said, appearing in the conference room doorway. Emily looked up, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I want to get this right. This gala, it means everything to me, to families like mine. It's going to be perfect. I hope so. She rubbed her eyes tiredly. Sometimes I feel like I'm in over my head, like I'm going to mess this up and let everyone down. Emily. I sat down across from her. You're the most competent person I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of people. She smiled, but it was shaky. You're just saying that because I reorganized your filing system. I'm saying it because it's true. I hesitated, then pulled out the folder Marcus had given me. I have something I want to discuss with you. Emily's face went carefully neutral as she read through the job description. This is incredible, but I don't understand. Why would you create this position? Because you're wasted serving coffee. Because you have insights and passion that could help thousands of families. Because... I took a deep breath. Because I think you're extraordinary. Emily set down the papers, her hands shaking slightly. Kate, I can't accept this. Why not? Because I know why you're really offering it. Her voice was quiet but steady, and it's not fair to either of us. My heart stopped. What do you mean? I see the way you look at me, the way you've been looking at me for weeks. Emily's cheeks were flushed, but she met my eyes directly, and I see the way I look at you too. The admission hung between us like a live wire. I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way I hadn't been since I was a child. Emily, I can't take a job from you because we're attracted to each other. I can't build my career on whatever this is between us. That's not why I'm offering it. Isn't it? She stood up, starting to pace. Kate, you're the most powerful woman in Seattle. You could have anyone you want. Why would you want someone like me? Someone like you? A single mother with no education, no money, no connections. Someone who comes with complications and responsibilities, and a daughter who needs more than most kids. I stood up too, anger flaring in my chest. Don't you dare diminish yourself like that. I'm being realistic. You're being scared. I stepped closer to her. You think I care about your education? Your bank account? Emily, you're raising an incredible child while working 3 jobs. You're fighting for families who have no voice. You're the strongest person I've ever met. And you're the most terrifying. The words stopped me cold. Terrifying? Emily's eyes filled with tears. You have the power to change my entire life with a phone call, to give me everything I've ever dreamed of or take it all away. How am I supposed to trust my feelings when the stakes are so high? I felt something break inside my chest. You think I would hurt you? I think you could. Without even meaning to. Emily wiped her eyes. I've been hurt before, Kate, by people who promised to take care of us, and then disappeared when things got complicated. I'm not going anywhere. You say that now, but what happens when the novelty wears off? When you remember that dating a single mother means soccer games and therapy appointments and meltdowns in public places, when you realize that Mia and I are a package deal, and she'll always come first, I looked over at Mia, who had fallen asleep on the small couch, her building blocks scattered around her. She looked so small, so vulnerable, and I felt a fierce protectiveness rise in my chest. I would never ask you to choose between me and Mia. You wouldn't have to ask. That's the problem. Emily gathered her things quietly, trying not to wake her daughter. I need to think about this job offer. All of it. Emily, wait. She paused at the door, Mia sleeping in her arms. For what it's worth, I said quietly. You're not the only one who's scared. I've spent years building walls to keep people out. You and Mia, you've made me want to tear them all down, and that terrifies me more than any business deal I've ever made. Emily's expression softened. Kate, take the weekend. Think about the job, but know that it's yours regardless of anything else between us. You've earned it. After they left, I sat alone in my office, looking out at the city lights and wondering when I'd become someone who was willing to risk everything for the chance to be loved. The answer came to me as I watched a plane disappear into the night sky. The moment I'd seen Emily protecting her daughter in that cafe, I'd recognized something in her that I'd lost years ago, the courage to fight for what mattered. Now I just had to find the courage to fight for her. Emily didn't call over the weekend. By Monday morning, I was a wreck, checking my phone every 5 minutes and snapping at my assistant over trivial things. She's not coming, I told Marcus at 9:15 a.m. Give her time. I pushed too hard. I should have kept things professional. Kate, you offered her a dream job and told her you care about her. Most people would consider that a good day. At 9:30, the elevator dinged, and Emily stepped out, holding Mia's hand. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept much either, but determined. Good morning, she said formally. Good morning. I tried to read her expression, but she'd put up walls I hadn't seen since her first day. I've thought about your offer. My heart hammered against my ribs. And? I'll take the job. But I have conditions. Relief flooded through me. Name them. We keep things strictly professional during work hours. No personal conversations, no lingering looks, no touching. Each word felt like a small knife. Okay. And we need to establish clear boundaries about Mia. She's not your responsibility, and I don't want her getting attached if we don't work out. Emily, those are my terms. I nodded, even though everything in me wanted to argue. Understood. For the next week, Emily was polite, professional, and completely distant. She called me Ms. Sullivan, kept our conversations focused on work, and made sure Mia stayed in the quiet room instead of wandering into my office like she used to. It was torture. I watched Emily laugh with other staff members and felt jealous of their easy interactions. I saw her helping Mia with homework and ached to be included in their little bubble of warmth. I caught glimpses of the passionate, caring woman I'd fallen for, but she kept that part of herself carefully hidden from me. The breaking point came on Thursday afternoon. I was in my office when I heard crying from the conference room, not Mia's distressed crying, but Emily's quiet, heartbroken sobs. I found her sitting at the conference table, her laptop open to an email, tears streaming down her face. Emily, what's wrong? She quickly wiped her eyes. Nothing. I'm sorry. I'll get back to work. Don't. I sat down beside her, close enough to see the email on her screen. It was from Mia's school, informing her that they were recommending Mia be moved to a different program, one that cost 3 times as much. They're saying she's too disruptive, Emily whispered, that she needs more specialized support than they can provide. What does that mean? It means I can't afford the program they're recommending. It means... Her voice broke. It means I'm failing her. Emily, no. You're not failing anyone. I am. I can't give her what she needs. I can't afford the therapy, the special school, the support services. I'm working all the time, and she's suffering because of it. Without thinking, I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. What if I helped? No. Emily's voice was firm despite her tears. I can't take money from you. Not money, connections. I know people on the school board, administrators at private schools. Let me make some calls. Kate, please, let me help. Not as your boss, not as someone who wants something from you, but as someone who cares about Mia. Emily looked at me for a long moment, and I saw her walls cracking. Why do you care so much? Because she reminds me of my sister. Because you remind me of the mother my sister never had. Someone who would fight for her no matter what. I squeezed her hand gently, because I'm falling in love with both of you. And I can't stand to see you in pain. The words were out before I could stop them. Emily's eyes widened, and for a moment, neither of us breathed. Kate, I know you said professional boundaries. I know you're scared. But I can't pretend anymore that this is just about work. Emily was quiet for so long I thought she might not respond at all. Then, slowly, she turned her hand over so our palms were touching. I'm falling in love with you too, she whispered, and it terrifies me. Why? Because I've never had anything good that lasted. Because people always leave when things get hard. Because I don't know how to trust someone with my heart and Mia's future. I lifted our joined hands and kissed her knuckles gently, then let me prove that I'm not going anywhere. That evening, I made 3 phone calls. By Friday morning, Emily had appointments at 2 excellent schools that specialized in autism support, both of which offered need-based scholarships. How did you do this? Emily asked, staring at the appointment confirmations. I told them about an exceptional little girl who deserved the best education possible. Kate, I don't know how to thank you. Have dinner with me. Tonight, just the 3 of us. Emily hesitated. What about boundaries? What about them? She smiled. The first real smile she'd given me all week. Okay, but I cook. My apartment, 7 o'clock. I'll bring wine. I don't drink wine. What do you drink? Chocolate milk. Sometimes coffee if I'm feeling fancy. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in days. I'll bring chocolate milk. That evening, I stood outside Emily's apartment building, holding a bag of groceries, and feeling more nervous than I had before any board meeting. The building was old but well-maintained, in a neighborhood that was clearly gentrifying but not quite there yet. Emily's apartment was tiny but warm, filled with Mia's artwork and photos of the 2 of them together. It smelled like vanilla candles and something delicious cooking on the stove. Miss Kate! Mia ran to me, wrapping her arms around my legs. Mama made spaghetti. That's my favorite, I said, kneeling down to hug her properly. Mine too. We're the same. Over dinner, I watched Emily relax for the first time in weeks. She told me stories about Mia's latest obsessions. Butterflies had been replaced by dinosaurs, which had been replaced by space exploration. Mia demonstrated her knowledge by explaining the differences between various types of stars while twirling spaghetti around her fork. She's going to be a scientist, I said. Or an artist, or a teacher, or all 3. Emily smiled at her daughter. She can be anything she wants. After dinner, Mia fell asleep on the couch between us while we watched a nature documentary about monarch butterflies. Emily's head was on my shoulder, and I could feel her breathing slow as she relaxed. Kate? She whispered. Thank you. For today, for the school appointments, for not giving up on us. I pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Thank you for letting me in. I'm still scared. So am I. What are we doing? I looked down at Mia, sleeping peacefully, then at Emily, who was looking up at me with trust and hope and love in her eyes. I think we're falling in love, I said quietly. Is that okay? It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Emily reached up and touched my face gently. Can I kiss you? Instead of answering, I leaned down and kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, she was smiling. So much for professional boundaries, she whispered. Completely overrated, I agreed. And as we sat there in her tiny apartment, Mia sleeping between us and the future stretching out uncertain but hopeful, I realized I'd finally found what I'd been searching for my entire life. A family. 3 weeks later, I thought we had found our rhythm. Emily had started the new position, Mia was thriving at her new school, and we were taking things slow. Family dinners twice a week, weekend outings to the zoo, or the science museum, stolen kisses when Mia wasn't looking. I was happier than I'd ever been, which should have been my first warning that something was about to go wrong. The call came on a Tuesday morning, while I was in a meeting with the board. Marcus interrupted, which he never did unless it was an emergency. "Kate, you need to take this. It's Emily, and she sounds—" I didn't wait for him to finish. "Emily? What's wrong?" "Kate." Her voice was shaky, barely controlled. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." My blood went cold. "What is it? Did you have someone investigate me? Before you offered me the job?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I'd completely forgotten about the background check I'd ordered that first day, when I was still thinking like a CEO instead of a woman falling in love. "Emily, did you?" Her voice was harder now. "Yes, but—" The line went dead. I was out of the boardroom and in the elevator before my brain caught up with my body. Marcus called after me, but I didn't stop. I had to get to Emily, had to explain, had to fix this before I lost everything that mattered. I found her in the community outreach office, packing her things into a box. Her face was pale, her movements sharp and angry. "Emily, please let me explain." "Explain what? That you had me investigated like a criminal? That you know about every mistake I've ever made, every bill I couldn't pay, every time I've struggled? It wasn't like that, wasn't it?" She turned to face me, and I saw tears in her eyes. "Do you know what it feels like to find out that someone you trust has been reading your private information like a file? That they know things about you that you never chose to share? I ordered that background check before I knew you, before I cared about you. It was standard procedure. Standard procedure?" Emily's voice rose. "Kate, you know about Mia's father. You know why I dropped out of nursing school. You know about the eviction notice I got last year, about the credit card debt, about the time I had to choose between groceries and Mia's therapy." Each word was like a knife. I had read those things, filed them away as data points, never thinking about how invasive it was, how it would feel to Emily to know I had that information. "I'm sorry. I should have told you." "When? When would have been a good time to mention that you'd violated my privacy before we even had our first real conversation? Emily, please, don't let this destroy what we have." "What do we have, Kate?" She laughed bitterly. "How can I trust anything between us when it started with you knowing everything about me, while I knew nothing about you? You know me. You know who I am? Do I? Because the woman I thought I was falling in love with wouldn't have done this. She wouldn't have pretended that our connection was organic when she'd already read my life story like a resume." I felt panic rising in my chest. "Emily, I love you. I love Mia. That's real, regardless of how it started. Is it? Or do you love the idea of saving us? The broken single mother and her disabled daughter? The perfect charity case for the guilty billionaire?" The words hit me like a slap. "That's not fair. Isn't it? You swooped in and rescued us from the cafe, offered me a dream job, solved Mia's school problems. How do I know any of it was about us, and not about you feeling good about yourself? Because I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you." The words came out louder than I intended, raw and desperate. Because for the first time in my life, I care more about someone else's happiness than my own success. Emily stared at me, tears streaming down her face. "But you still investigated me. You still violated my privacy, and then let me fall in love with you without telling me. I was going to tell you. When?" I opened my mouth but had no answer. The truth was, I'd hoped she'd never have to know. I'd wanted to pretend it never happened. To build our relationship on the foundation of who we were now, not the circumstances that brought us together. "How did you find out?" I asked quietly. "Marcus. He let it slip during a meeting about security protocols. He assumed I knew." Emily wiped her eyes. He looked horrified when he realized I didn't. "I was going to kill Marcus, but first, I had to save the most important thing in my life. Emily, please, don't throw away what we have because of something I did before I knew better." "I'm not throwing it away. You did." She picked up the box of her belongings. "I can't do this, Kate. I can't be with someone who sees me as a project instead of a person. That's not how I see you. Prove it. How? Leave me alone. If you really care about me, if this isn't just about your guilt or your need to fix things, then respect my decision and leave me alone. She walked past me toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, she said without turning around, I really did love you, the person I thought you were. After she left, I sat in her empty office for an hour, staring at the photos she'd left behind. Pictures of families at autism support events, children laughing, parents hugging their kids, all the work she'd done in just a few weeks, all the lives she'd touched. I'd lost her. I'd lost them both. And it was entirely my fault. That evening, I found myself driving past Emily's apartment building. I didn't stop, didn't get out, just sat in my car like a stalker, hoping for a glimpse of the life I'd destroyed. I saw them through the window, Emily helping Mia with homework at the small kitchen table, both of them illuminated by the warm light of the overhead lamp. They looked peaceful, complete without me. Maybe Emily was right. Maybe I had seen them as a project, a way to assuage my guilt about my sister, about the family I'd never had. Maybe my love was selfish, built on my need to be needed rather than genuine care for who they were. But as I watched Mia show Emily something in her book, watched Emily smile and ruffle her daughter's hair, I knew that wasn't true. I loved them. Not because they needed saving, but because they had saved me. I loved Emily's strength, her fierce protectiveness, her ability to find joy in small moments, despite everything she'd been through. I loved Mia's curiosity, her unique way of seeing the world, her complete trust in her mother's love. I loved them because they had shown me what family really meant. Now I just had to figure out how to prove it to Emily before I lost them forever. The gala was in 2 days. Emily had put her heart into planning it, had made it something beautiful and meaningful. I couldn't let her work be wasted because of my mistakes. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. If Emily wanted me to prove that I saw her as more than a project, I'd show her exactly how much her vision meant. Not just to me, but to everyone whose lives she'd touched. It was time to let Emily Parker shine in her own light, not in the shadow of my guilt. The night of the gala, I stood at the back of the ballroom and watched Emily's vision come to life. She'd transformed the sterile hotel space into something warm and welcoming, soft lighting, round tables that encouraged conversation, and displays featuring real families sharing their stories. Emily was there, of course. She'd refused to let her personal feelings interfere with the event she'd worked so hard to create. She wore a simple navy dress that made her eyes look like emeralds, and she moved through the crowd with quiet confidence, making sure everything ran smoothly. She hadn't spoken to me in 3 days. The silent treatment isn't working, Marcus said, appearing beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. I'm not giving her the silent treatment. I'm respecting her wishes. By lurking in corners like a creepy ex-boyfriend? I glared at him. I'm observing, making sure her event is successful. Her event is perfect, and you know it. Look around, Kate. This is what happens when you trust someone's vision instead of trying to control everything. He was right. The gala was unlike anything we'd ever hosted. Instead of the usual stuffy speeches and predictable auction items, Emily had created an experience. Families shared their stories at each table. Local artists with autism displayed their work. Children like Mia moved freely through sensory-friendly spaces designed just for them, and the donations were pouring in. Not because people felt obligated, but because they were genuinely moved by what they were seeing and hearing. She's extraordinary, I said quietly. Yes, she is. So stop being an idiot and go talk to her. She doesn't want to talk to me. Did she tell you that, or are you assuming? Before I could answer, the lights dimmed, and Emily stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent, hundreds of faces turning toward her with expectant attention. Good evening, she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. 6 weeks ago, I was a single mother working 3 jobs, struggling to get my daughter the support she needed, feeling invisible in a world that didn't understand us. I felt my heart clench as she continued. Tonight, I stand before you not as someone who needs your pity, but as someone who wants to share the truth about autism. The challenges, yes, but also the incredible gifts that come with seeing the world differently. She gestured to a table near the front where Mia sat with several other children, all of them wearing noise-canceling headphones and working on art projects. My daughter Mia is 7 years old. She's autistic. She sees patterns where others see chaos. She finds beauty in things most people overlook. She loves butterflies because they transform. And she believes that everyone has the power to become something beautiful. The room was completely silent, hanging on every word. But Mia's gifts come with challenges. She needs support, understanding, and sometimes accommodations that our society isn't always willing to provide. Tonight isn't about asking you to feel sorry for families like ours. It's about asking you to see us, really see us, and to help us build a world where every child can reach their potential. Emily paused, her eyes scanning the crowd. For just a moment, her gaze met mine across the room, and I saw something there, not anger, but sadness, and something that might have been longing. The funds raised tonight will go directly to programs that work, therapy scholarships for children who need them, support groups for parents who feel alone, sensory-friendly spaces in schools and public buildings, research that focuses on helping autistic individuals thrive, not trying to fix them. The applause was thunderous. I watched Emily's face light up with pride and relief, and I felt my heart break all over again. This was her moment, her triumph, and I wasn't part of it. As the evening continued, I watched from the sidelines as Emily was surrounded by donors, advocates, and families whose lives she'd touched. She was glowing, confident, completely in her element. This was who she was meant to be, not my employee, not my project, but a leader in her own right. Around 10 p.m., I saw her step out onto the hotel's terrace for some air. After a moment's hesitation, I followed. She was standing at the railing, looking out at the Seattle skyline, her shoulders slightly slumped with exhaustion. "That was incredible," I said softly. She didn't turn around. "Thank you." "Emily, please don't." Her voice was tired. "Not tonight. Tonight was perfect, and I don't want to ruin it with another fight. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to apologize." "Really apologize." She finally turned to face me, and in the soft light from the ballroom, I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, but also something else, a strength that hadn't been there when we first met. "Kate, I've been thinking about what you said, about investigating me. Emily, let me finish." She held up a hand. "I understand why you did it. You're a businesswoman. You were offering me a job. You needed to know who you were dealing with. I get that. But you should have told me. The moment things became personal between us, you should have been honest about what you knew." I nodded, shame burning in my chest. "You're right. I was a coward. I was afraid you'd think exactly what you did think, that I saw you as a charity case." "Did you?" The question hung between us in the cool night air. I thought about my answer carefully, knowing that everything depended on getting this right. At first, maybe. I saw a woman who needed help, and helping felt better than the emptiness I'd been living with. I stepped closer to her, but that changed the moment I really looked at you. The moment I saw how you protected Mia, how you fought for what you believed in, how you made me want to be better than I was. When did it change? In the cafe, when you told me your conditions for taking the job. When you looked me in the eye and demanded respect, instead of just accepting whatever I offered. That's when I realized you weren't someone who needed saving. You were someone who could save me. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Kate, I love you," I said quietly. "Not because you need me, but because you make me better. Not because I want to fix your life, but because you've already fixed mine. I love your strength, your passion, your incredible heart. I love the way you see the world, the way you fight for Mia, the way you made me remember what it feels like to care about something more than profit margins. I love you too," she whispered. "But I'm still scared." "Of what?" "Of losing myself in your world. Of becoming dependent on you and then having you decide we're too complicated, too much work." I reached for her hands, relieved when she didn't pull away. "Emily, look at what you accomplished tonight. Look at how you transformed this gala, how you're already changing lives, You don't need me to be extraordinary. You already are. Then what do you want from me? I want to be part of your life, not the center of it. I want to support your dreams, not replace them with mine. I want to love you and Mia exactly as you are, not try to change you into what I think you should be. Emily was quiet for a long moment, studying my face in the dim light. If we do this, she said finally, we do it as equals. No more rescuing, no more trying to solve all my problems. I need to know that you respect me enough to let me handle my own life. Deal. And Mia comes first, always. If you can't handle that, Emily. I squeezed her hands gently. Mia is part of what I love about you. The way you put her first, the way you fight for her, the way you've raised this incredible little human being who sees butterflies and stars and possibilities everywhere. I don't want to compete with that. I want to support it. And if it gets hard, if she has bad days, if I have bad days, if our life isn't as neat and organized as your boardroom, then we figure it out together, all of us. Emily smiled through her tears. All of us? If you'll have me, if Mia will have me. She's been asking about you every day. She made you a picture, a butterfly turning into a star. My heart clenched. I've missed her. I've missed both of you so much. We've missed you too. I leaned down and kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, she was smiling. So what happens now? She asked. Now we go back inside, and you finish accepting congratulations for the most successful gala in Sullivan tech history. Tomorrow, you keep changing the world, one family at a time. And if you'll let me, I'll be there cheering you on. And us? We take it one day at a time. We build something real, something equal, something that makes all three of us better. Emily nodded, then surprised me by laughing. You know what the funny thing is? What? I never needed you to save me, but somehow you needed me to save you. Is that okay? It's perfect. We walked back into the ballroom together, and I watched as Emily was immediately surrounded by people wanting to thank her, to share their stories, to be part of the movement she was building. Mia ran up to us, her face bright with excitement. Miss Kate, you came back. I did, butterfly girl. I heard you made me a picture. She nodded enthusiastically and pulled a folded paper from her pocket. It was a drawing of a butterfly with rainbow wings transforming into a golden star with 3 stick figures holding hands underneath. That's you, and Mama and me, she explained. We're a family now. I looked at Emily, who was smiling through fresh tears. Yes, I said, kneeling down to hug Mia. We're a family now. 6 months later, I stood in the same ballroom, but this time it was decorated with white flowers and soft music. Emily walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, Mia beside her in a purple dress covered in butterfly pins, both of them glowing with happiness. As Emily reached me at the altar, she whispered, "Ready for this adventure? With you two? I'm ready for anything." And as we exchanged vows in front of our friends and family, including dozens of the families Emily had helped through her work, I realized that sometimes the best things in life come not from having a plan, but from having the courage to let love change everything. The little girl who had once screamed in a cafe was now my daughter, teaching me about butterflies and stars and the magic of seeing the world through different eyes. The woman who had once served coffee was now my wife, my partner, my equal in every way that mattered. And me? I was no longer the ice queen of Seattle's business world. I was Kate, Mia's bonus mom, Emily's wife, and the luckiest woman alive. What happens when a powerful CEO falls in love with a struggling single mother? Everything changes. Everything gets better. Everything becomes possible. And that's the most beautiful transformation of all. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and let us know in the comments what love story you'd like to see next, because everyone deserves a love that changes everything.